Hello, welcome, Shnucklz. Thank you so much for coming to this being interviewed for the radio show of the Love
You're
Transmission.
welcome. You're welcome. I don't know if I should be worried or scared or both.
Oh, I don't know. I think, well, that's an interesting one because that whole thing, the thing that I'm passionate about is it's I call it free your true voice, right? And even that sentence that you just said, I don't know if I should be worried or scared or what, is like when we are put on the spot, do we come forward as our true selves, or do we need to, like, if we're worried or scared, we might sort of put something on, or uh, and so often in the world people are doing that. They're operating like that. Fear is the main reason why people don't dare to share their true voice, but I already know.
I think fear is the thing that restricts people from most things. Fear stops you from trying new things. Fear stops you from, in some respects, like you said, it can stop you from being yourself, but it can also stop you, from attempting to achieve things, which is the same as trying something new and things like that. So fear is probably one of the biggest constrictors that we as people, as human beings, have.
Yes, it's also a protective mechanism. But before we go into all of that, and I just love that you just dived in with me straight away, I want to introduce you to our listeners. So DJ Shnucklz plays on Co South FM. And so you can tune into his show. When is it?
So I've recently changed. It used to be Mondays 4 till 6. I've just moved from 4 till 6 to 6 till 8. So every Monday 6 till 8 p.m.
And what type of music do you play?
Oh gosh, I predominantly play old school house and garage. However, this Monday just gone, I dabbled in a bit of reggae, some bashment. No, not really bashment. It was more reggae and a little bit of dancehall ish, and a little bit of R&B, a little bit of rap. I did do some garage as well. So yeah.
Awesome. And how often is this show? Is it weekly, fortnightly, monthly?
Weekly. Yeah, so every week, every Monday, 6 till 8 p.m. Predominantly dance music, so it's normally sort of house and garagey.
Tune in to DJ Shnucklz every Monday, 6 till 8 p.m. on codesouth.fm.
I
Ah,
like it.
great. That was probably our first soundbite, right? But so here we are together now. I met you when we were having a meeting with the DJs for the radio show, and I
Yeah.
told you about my passion about free your true voice, and then you were telling me that you do some kind of personal growth coaching or something, or you inspirational speaking. Tell me a bit about that.
I used to. So I used to work. Um, so I used to work for a charity in the welfare to work industry. So helping to support people to overcome their barriers, move forward, improve their lives, and take steps towards employment. Predominantly, I was working with people with health conditions, disabilities, and stuff like that. A lot of the time, I'd say more or less, regardless of if anyone had a physical disability or not, most people I worked with had some form of a mental health condition, ranging from mild depression all the way up to psychosis and schizophrenia.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for your work and for your offerings.
It's not something I do anymore. I did really, really enjoy it though. It is something I did really enjoy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And was that based in Brighton?
It was in the mid Sussex area. So I was working in the Crawley, Haywards Heath, Horsham, those covering those sort of areas. And when I left, I was doing a Coast to Capital project, which covered from the coast up to Croydon area.
Okay, brilliant. Well, it's funny. One of my clients, she's been doing Free Your True Voice work with me, and she was on antidepressants for 20 years on and off. At the age of 65, she started doing work with me and came off the antidepressants and started freeing her true voice. And what it seems like, she was a mother and grandmother. People just like I asked a lot of her, and I think a part of her died inside because she just said yes and did everything that they wanted. And then as she started to free her true voice and say, well, actually, no, I actually matter too. And she started writing poetry, doing these processes that I do. And basically she's off the antidepressants. It's been over a year now that she's been off them. Did you see anything similar with some of the people that were struggling with those kind of mental health?
Massively. Oh gosh, where do we start? A person that I would like to say close with, but I haven't made contact with him for a little while. And yes, so he's got my personal number, and likewise, I did check it through work beforehand. But this person suffered with suicidal ideation on a daily basis. I supported him at meetings with his psychiatrist, mental health. Not that I actually took him to a hospital after, I want to say, an attempt at taking his own life. I sat at the hospital with him until I think he was actually released. So he was released from hospital, but I stayed until he was free to leave. And then I left him when his mum turned up. So that's one situation. He's actually a lot more positive now, and he's thinking about work, even though he was signed off at the age of 16, that, you know, he would never have to work. And that's how, he was dealing with quite a lot. But he's now thinking so much more positive. His life has moved on. He still has troubles, but it's nowhere near as bad as what it was, you know, quite a few years ago.
Okay.
And he's such a young chap as well. But I've got a number of stories. That's just one.
And so do you think he was struggling with being able to express himself?
In a way, no. And the reason I say that, I think I sat and listened to him, and he was quite articulated. So the way he spoke and what he had to say meant a lot, and there was a lot of meaning behind it. However, I feel he probably more felt that he wasn't being listened to. In fact, I was there so I was at an appointment with him where his medical professional, he explained to the medical professional that he did not want to take any more medication because and this was a few days after an attempt at, you know, an overdose. He said all he will do again is do the same thing. So he didn't want any more. So that in itself is positive. You know, he didn't want to try and attempt to take his life again. The doctor actually just turned around and said, okay, let's change your medication. And it took a lot for me to not say anything. I think I actually did say something. I was like, did you hear what he just said? He's just come from hospital after attempting to take an overdose. He's explained to you he doesn't want to do that again. And so he doesn't want any more medication. And you've literally ignored everything and just tried to prescribe something else.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, I think one of the things that happens when somebody quietens and they stop expressing themselves is that they've hit walls. Every time they've tried to express themselves, no one's listening. Then they just go, I give up. That's
I was just about to use that exact word. They give up. And that's the saddest thing, I think.
Yeah, and that's a bit like my person that I was telling you about. They gave up. I don't even know when they gave up. They gave up, trying to say what they wanted, or they just gave in, or maybe they had always given in and they got tired of giving in, or it's a complicated scenario. So I'll tell you, the last time I felt suicidal, I'm 50 now, and I remember the last time I felt suicidal. I was living in Brighton on the seafront. I had a beautiful view of the sea, and I remember looking down on the street and just wishing I could throw myself in front of a car. And then I realized that I actually, the reason I wanted to die was because I was so busy trying to be what I wasn't, and it was really tiring to try and be this person that I thought I should be. And I felt like if I could just be myself, I might not need to want to kill myself, but that didn't feel safe.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
And
I was going to ask you a question. I was just wondering what you thought contributed to you feeling that way. Was it like life in general, work, or, you know, was there something specific?
well, yeah, I mean, I've been ever since in my adult life, I've been a singer. So I've been you know, and that's people look at someone like me and go, oh, you know, you're freeing your voice because you're a singer. Like, so it was, and I even wrote songs like you can make your dreams come true and all kind of things like that. So I was singing my messages and things like that. But in my real day-to-day relational life, I was fronting, I was trying to people please, I was trying to be the person that people wanted me to be. And that came way back to when I was a kid. That was what I needed to do to feel safe at home with my mom.
Yeah. So that in itself, I would say, was probably your mask.
Yeah, man, so much of a mask. And you know, even years later, like I'm much better at it now. And this is why I do my work, Free Your True Voice. I want to help everyone to speak up and be themselves and not fake it anymore. But yeah, yeah, oh, I think I've lost my thread. Even that,
That's
you
all
know,
right.
and admitting that you've lost your thread is something I can do now. Like, I don't know what I would have done before. I try and cover it up. But
We
yeah,
might need to do this again because, yeah, I'm pretty. It's weird. I think people feel comfortable with me, and they end up opening up and saying a lot more than they were probably prepared to say, or um, realizing they were going to say. If that makes any sense.
yeah, so that's interesting. So I love the fact that you've come to be interviewed with me. And I'll just tell the listeners that basically the person I was going to interview tonight became unavailable at the last minute. So I called up Shnucklz and he was like, yeah, I'll do it right now. And I'm like, thank you. So here we are. This is very, very spontaneous. And I love what you just said, that people tend to open up to you.
I don't know why. I have no idea.
Well, do you think it's because you're a good listener?
I think I am a good listener. I do tend to process stuff, and I like to, I guess, think quite strategically. So I take information in and try to, in some respects, think of a solution. Now, it's not always a solution as such, but it might be just a remedy to help that person feel just that little bit better at times. And I've realized that I'm really good at helping other people. I'm
Okay, now
rubbish at helping myself, but I'm very good at helping others.
that's really interesting. So I want to ask you this, because I was that person, right? But who was very good at people turned to me, all my youth, they turned to me, they shared their problems and everything. But what I realized in my experience was that they I was like there for them, but when it was my turn to turn around and be held and listened to, they weren't there for me. And that made the victim in me go, oh, it's not fair, la, 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 la. And that has taken me years as well, because the people pleaser that I was just listening and listening and listening and being there and coming up with suggestions. But the free voice that I needed to have was go, oh, actually, I'd like to talk now, or maybe you can help me too. How are you with that?
No comment.
So I'm giving it up. I'm giving up. I'm actually giving up being the agony aunt, because it became really heavy for me. And I realized, well, there's a lot about it actually. So one person turned around to me one day and said to me, Alison, you should stop asking me so many questions. If you don't want me to dominate the conversation with my stuff, you need to stop asking me so many questions. And I didn't, yeah, I am really interested in people and I do that. And then I have this Facebook group called Free Your True Voice, and we talk about different things every week, right? And the other day we were talking about when people just start talking to you about something that you don't really want to discuss. And, you know, they're taking it on a downward and they're talking about themselves, and how can we steer the conversation round to be something that interests us or uplifts us or includes us? What do you think about that?
Oh wow. I'm not sure. I think with what you've just said there, for me personally, I the first thing I'm asking, and maybe I'm asking the situation or the context of the situation that you've just described, but I'm wondering, does this person open up like that on a regular basis? Because if they don't, I think that's where they finally felt comfortable to actually seek help and speak about something. So although I really understand everything that you said, and I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to disagree or downplay what you said, because it is important to look after yourself. Um, I know, and that's probably just my thought process. My first concern is, why is this person saying this now? Have they reached the end of their tether? What's going on in their life that's made them want to open up and speak about this situation that they're now talking about? So I don't know how to answer your question. It was a roundabout way, a long-winded way, should I say, of me trying to answer your question. I'm not sure. I'm
I
not
love
sure.
that. What I hear when you say that is your altruism. You're just purely in service, and you are kind, and you want to be in service, and you're like, I'm going to give them this opportunity to open up. Is that, for me, I'm just,
I'd say so, yeah. I think that it's been in, I mean, if I talk about myself with regards to listening to something that my mum would say, it doesn't surprise me that I'm in, or I have this innate desire to help people. She said that when I was at nursery, people would be fighting and I'd jump in the middle. So I'm just imagining myself at 3 years old, for example, getting in the middle of two people scrapping over a toy and trying to, mediate between the two of them to make sure that they both went away happy. And like I ended up doing security work, door work and stuff like that. And, media, like, so it doesn't, when I think about it like that, I think it's always been in me to want to help, to want to solve problems and stuff like that. And it's funny that you say you wanted to realize actually you weren't happy because you weren't happy doing what you were doing, for example. I think I've come to realize that in some respects my calling is in some way, shape, or form helping others.
I hear you. So mine is too. And like, for example, I've got this program where I work with my clients to help them express themselves. And I create the space for them to work through the blocks of why they're not doing it, and show them how beautiful they sound and how wise they are. And I love doing that work. But I get paid to do it, and it's my work. So when I'm in my free time, and I love uplifting people, when I'm singing, I
Yeah,
want people to have a really good time. I want this radio show to make people dance and feel great. But in my spare time, I want some equality. I want to receive support. I don't
yes,
want
of
to
course.
be a therapist in my spare time, which is how
Yeah,
it kind of was before. So it was
yeah, yeah.
tiring me out. But you saying it doesn't tire you out. You enjoy it and that's it.
I think anyone, if they're going to be honest, when you're taking on board someone else's problems, it you take on board some of that, or that emotion, that stress, that um, I think I've learned to sort of shake it off. Quoting, who is it? It's Taylor
Taylor
Swift.
Swift. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, go. Gosh, it shows that I'm not really into the commercial sort of music, isn't
I sing
it?
that one. I love it, but not for this show.
But I have learned a little bit of, just, to not not take it so personally. I'm not going to say I never take anything personally, because that would be a lie. But I try to put things in perspective,
Mm-hmm.
just so that I can process it and understand it a little bit more as well. So I wouldn't say no as such, but I don't think it does as much as maybe it would have done quite a few years ago.
It does what? Tire you out as much?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's mentally draining, so
Yes.
it's more. But then that has an effect on you physically as well.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually emotionally draining. I mean, the wonderful thing about when I do it with my clients, I might have someone crying their eyes out, bringing up pain and trauma from their life, but it makes me feel high because I'm in service. They've chosen to do it with me. We've both agreed it. you know, when they're getting to the nitty gritty of their pain, I'm super excited for them because I know it's the verge of their transformation. And when they finished, when I finished the session with them, I just feel great, and I haven't carried any of it with me. Whereas if I'm with my friends and they're going to tell me, or somebody I don't even really know, and they're going to start moaning about this and this problem and that, then I don't have the same mechanisms of safety in place.
Would you that I can understand what you're saying there. Would you say that when it's not a work setting, you can be a little bit more brutal with your friends, and you can be a little bit more cutthroat or to the point if they were to say something? Because
that's what I'm learning. That's what I'm
imagining. What I'm imagining is like you've gone to a bar, for example, and you've met up with a friend, and they've brought the same issue to you that they've been going on for the last few years or the last, you know, few months, whatever the case may be. And you're hearing the exact same story. And you've probably tried to give advice previously as well. Like, for example, oh, I don't know why he treats me like this, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And you said to her, well, okay, are you happy? No, I'm not. So why are you still there? I don't know. And then it'll go round and around and again. And 6 months later, the same thing, the same thing. So do you not get to a point where you say, like, look, I don't want to hear this anymore? And that's why I think maybe that's the question you were asking. So in your personal life, especially if it's a situation like where you're hearing the same story all over and over and over again, for me, there needs to be like a cut off where you end up just saying, look, I do care for you, I do love you, so on and so forth. However, I don't want to hear this no more, because you're just moaning to me, but you're going to hear my advice, you're going to agree with everything I say, and then you're going to go back to him anyway. So what's the point of me wasting my breath?
Well, this is what you just said there. I've taken years to learn that. I mean, I did it once with one person who was in an abusive relationship. I said, I can't listen to this again. But mostly you see, you had such eloquence in there, the way you said it. You like, I'm going to listen back because I'm going to be cutting this up. But the way you said it was really good, because you said, it's not that I don't care. You put the caring in. There's this thing called radical candor, which is showing that you care, and then saying and giving a boundary as well. Saying, and that's what you did. And so you seem to have eloquence in that. But for me, I'm 50 and I'm still like, I'm getting to the point where I can say, listen, this isn't a constructive conversation, this isn't not helping, or whatever, or I'm not even actually in a good strong space to listen to this because it's just going to make me worry about you, or whatever it is. But it sounds like you have got that boundary in place, which is brilliant.
I try. I try. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Sometimes I can be a lot more subtle with it. I said, do you not think we're going around? And something I learned when I was doing the welfare to work, there's powerful questions, and I like to trigger thoughts, so I make people think with what I say. Some people might call that manipulative, and in some respects, I can understand that. But I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do. I'm trying to help you learn for yourself. So I will say, well, are you happy? It's simple questions like, are you happy? Do you think you should put up with this? Do you think the behavior is appropriate? And instead of me saying, well, I don't like that, I think you're unhappy, I think you shouldn't put up with that, that's bang out of order, blah, blah, blah. Rather than, it's pointless because that's just me talking at someone. Where if I make you ask yourself that question, well, are you happy with that? How did that make you feel? You know, and those sort of questions, it kind of helps people to get to the situation that they need to be, or the position that they need to be in, a little bit quicker.
Wow, that's a really good skill. Do you think you learned that through the work you did?
I believe so, or it made me hone in on it. I might have, did things like that previously. I can't tell you I did. I can't tell you I didn't, but it certainly made me think about the words I was using.
I love that. Thank you so much. I just love what you're sharing. And it's really cool because when you went no comment at that point, I thought, oh dear, he's like letting everybody, but you actually have got some boundaries and you have got a comment, and you can set clear boundaries when it's necessary. And you're doing it more than, it seems like you're not doing it necessarily for your own best interest, but you're doing it for the best interest of the other person. But the point when they're repeating themselves and not getting anywhere, for example, that that, well, even that gives them an opportunity to, your boundary gives them an opportunity to look at themselves and the looping that they're doing, for example. But it also is protecting you from hearing the same thing over and over.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. And this is when I was a lot younger as well. And this was when they were still smoking in pubs. I remember being in a pub, and at the time, a person I was really, really close to. And I understand why. He had like so much love for me as a friend. He wanted to do that certain things for me, and he used to constantly say to me, "Oh, I'm going to give up smoking." So I don't smoke. I've never smoked. I was like, "I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up." One day, I think we were stood at a bar, and one day I just said to him, "Let me ask you a question." He's like, "Yeah, go for it." It's like, "Do you enjoy smoking?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you're not going to give up then." He was like, "Oh, but I want to." I was like, "No, you're never going to give up whilst you enjoy smoking. And I don't want you to tell me you're going to give up for me. It's irrelevant for me whether you smoke or not." Obviously, he knew I didn't like it if he, was around me or what have you. But I pointed out, you're smoking for you, and if you want to give up, it's for you. It's not for me. And so yeah, I think you're right, because I was nowhere near doing the job that I had done at that point. So I have always known, I guess.
That's interesting. Yeah. So that's great. I mean, so well done you. Well done you. I mean, everyone's at different stages of that. So I think we'll bring the interview down to a close.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know where this was supposed to go. You might need to schedule another one.
No. Well, I happily talk to you again, but this is all I want to do is, like, with this radio show, I just want to help people to understand what I've observed. I run workshops and I do talks and have conversations with people, including my clients and just anybody. And I've seen that so many people have so much in common, but they don't know it because they're not sharing it. And so when we share these stories and these experiences, and it just helps, we open up dialogues that help people to go, oh, I'm not as strange as I thought I was. I'm not struggling alone here. What I'm going through is not, I'm not isolated, and I think even just any kind of, there's so much to discover on Free Your True Voice. I go on my Facebook group, not every week, maybe like 2 or 3 times a month, and I talk about something related to expressing yourself. And there's always a new subject that pops into my head to talk about because I'm passionate about it. And I think it would be so beautiful for us to think, well, just to have the thought about, what am I expressing? How do I express myself? How can I be like Shnucklz and just say to that person, girl, you're going on, and you said this enough times, and I'm done with it, but in the nice people, and I really care about how you feel. I'm not the best at it, right? I'm still learning, because there's other ways that you can go, just shut up, will you? Right? So even listening to what you've said so far could inspire someone. You'd be so surprised how valuable any of this stuff is. Or even the situation that you talked about of the client who kept taking overdoses. Like, sometimes people just want to know that these things exist, and we're on a dance music radio station. It's like people are here to listen to dance music, but everywhere I turn, I'm looking at young people, old people. There's everywhere, like black, white, gay, straight, you name it, rich, poor, and they're people that just will not dare to share how they're feeling in their heart, how they're really feeling, or what they really think, and they keep their mouth shut for so many reasons, but actually it makes them sick, or it makes them unhappy, or it just they're faking it.
I think what you've just said there is, it kind of brings it full circle back to the beginning where you spoke about fear, and fear of being judged is probably a big thing that a lot of people feel.
Yes. And I did a workshop recently with a bunch of young people, right? We were talking about fear of being judged and why is that such a big deal? And what came through was that in the olden days, and we're talking back, yeah, we would have been thrown out of the tribe if we were judged harshly. We would be tribal people, we'd be thrown out of the tribe, and we would die. We would starve and we would die. So people have got this very old ingrained sense of feeling like they have to feel like they belong, and they might need to do anything in order to do so, and they might need to let go of their true self in order to do so. But the realistic fact is, right now, if you get thrown out of your tribe, you will not die. You can find a new tribe.
This is true.
So, but for us to really know that in our bodies, like to really believe that and try it and dare to like lose friends or find our real friends, or like sometimes you find them, don't you, when something terrible happens.
I wouldn't disagree with you, but I think part of that comes from society in itself with regards to the fact of how the stereotypes of your traditional family or your traditional setup, or even if you look at work environment, you have a team, and if one person goes against the team, they're shunned. And you can find it, you might be working in a team of 3, 4, maybe more, but if you disagree with the majority or the alphas in the team, what can tend to happen is you're now an outcast, and then you have a really poor work environment, which can then affect you mentally. And we also learn, or we pick up on previous experiences. So if that's happened in the past, it could be, let's say at nursery, for example,
Yeah.
because you were wearing the wrong color t-shirt and all the other kids were wearing another color, they just sort of excluded you. And that is such a horrible feeling. You never want to experience it again. And so what we tend to do is we tend to conform to what other people think we should be doing. And it's rare that people step out of that.
Yes. And then this is the thing, you see. So then you've got to choose, because conforming for a long time, like that story I told you about me wanting to kill myself, like can kill you as well. Like it can kill you inside and it can kill you slowly. And it can, there's so many people on antidepressants these days who just, or self-medicating with alcohol, marijuana, or other drugs. Like, so at a certain point, we have to make a decision. Do we dare to change things and take the risks? We have to balance the risks, risk assess what we're going to do to be in our true self. And there are ways, we'll be talking about this a lot more in my show and in the work that I do, to feel comfortable and safe to come out and bring yourself out into the world. You might need to learn communication skills. You might need some support. And, that's what I do. I support people sometimes to find the way to share their true self. Like I use the tortoise analogy. A lot of people want to hide to go back in. If it's done wrong, they'll go back in and they'll be inside for even longer. So you've got to step out carefully and be helped and be safe. And yeah, there's so much. I got to go, and I'm really grateful. And we got to play music and everything. Is there anything you want to say to our listeners in regard to everything we've discussed, bearing in mind that there might be some people listening who are really picking up on this? Is there anything you want to encourage or say to our listeners?
I think the biggest thing that I would say is reach out, even if it's someone that you don't know. I mean, I'm happy for someone to reach out to me, and if they needed me to, for want of just to assess a situation and try and provide just that little bit of my personal opinion on advice, I'd happily do it.
Oh, wow.
I love helping people, and I love just, so yeah, it's not a problem. Just reach out.
Wow.
Don't
So
suffer in silence.
literally, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, you would like give your email address or your social media or something handle right now.
Happily, yeah. Yeah. You could reach me through the show. For example, we've got the chat box. You've got the WhatsApp on there. Even if it was you sent me a WhatsApp and sent me a little message on the chat, please could you check WhatsApp? Anything, and I would happily respond to someone if they needed just some sort of advice.
That is beautiful. I'm also available, but we can talk about that after the interview during the
Well,
show.
I was also
Shnucklz.
just thinking, but I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Oh, well, then just one more time. So we said at the beginning, but now let's say at the end, if they were going to reach out and they wanted to message you on your show is on Wednesday. No, Monday.
Ooh,
Monday,
Monday.
6 till
Every
8
Monday, 6 till 8 p.m.
on codesouth.fm, because this is also
Yeah, I like to bring the energy. I like to get people up and dancing and just feeling good, so.
Yes. Oh, enough respect to you. Thank you so much. You're such a sweetheart, and I'm really grateful for you to be
I
here.
do try. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Yeah.
I hope this is I hope someone can benefit from it, at least if nothing else.
Yeah, I believe they will. I'm going to stop recording now.